Hi there. Open any newspaper this week, or more accurately, any feed, any podcast, any breathless LinkedIn thread, and the message is uniform. The machines are coming, the jobs are ending, and this time it's different. The AI apocalypse, we're told, is not a matter of if, but when. Months, not decades. Prepare accordingly. But I've heard this sermon before, twice, in fact. I don't say this to be glib. I say it because I've spent 36 years on factory floors across three continents, and I've stood in the blast radius of every wave that was supposed to render the human worker obsolete. Well, I'm still standing. More importantly, they are still standing. The welders, the operators, the line leads, the technicians, who we were told again and again, they were told that their days were numbered. Their days were not numbered, maybe their days were renumbered. And there is an enormous difference. So I came of age in manufacturing during the great automation surge in the late 1980s and 90s, fresh out of graduate school from the University of Pittsburgh in 1989. At that point, General Motors had alone spent billions on robotics. The vision was intoxicating. Lights out factories. One of my first gigs was up in Saginaw, um, in a, they used to call it Factory of the Future, Lights Out Factory. So the vision was intoxicating. Lights out factories, untouched by human hands, humming with mechanical perfection 24 hours a day. And I watched it unfold from the inside. And here's what actually happened: the robots arrived, and the problems multiplied. Not because the robots were bad, they were extraordinary, but because the architects of automation had made a fatal assumption. They assumed that the factory floor was a simple system that could be encoded. And it was not. It was a living system, dense with tacit knowledge, improvised judgment, and 1,000 micro connections per shift that no one had ever bothered to document because no one had ever needed to. The automation wave didn't replace workers. It revealed how much we depended on them all along and how little we had invested in understanding what they actually did. Eventually, the hysteria cooled, the robots stayed, and so did the people. Maybe not in the same numbers. And the factories that thrived were the ones that figured out how to make both better together. Then came the great migration of the late 1990s and 2000s. This time, the threat wasn't steel and circuitry, it was geography. Why pay an American or German worker $50 an hour when someone in Guangzhou or Pune would do it for five? I lived this one too, on both sides of the ocean. I ran operations in India. I saw the promise and the reality. And the reality was more complicated than the prophecy. Offshoring worked brilliantly for some things and catastrophically for others. Supply chains stretched thin, quality wandered, institutional knowledge evaporated. The companies that chased the cheapest labor often found themselves paying the most expensive lessons. Again, the world adjusted. Some jobs left, others transformed. New ones emerged that no one had predicted. The workers who were supposed to be erased found new footholds, not without pain, not without dislocation, but with the resilience that the doomsayers had not factored into their models. Because doomsayers never factor in resilience. It doesn't fit in a spreadsheet. And now, here we are again. The language models write poetry. The algorithms diagnose disease. The robots don't just weld, they learn. And the chorus rises, louder than ever. This time it's truly different. Maybe it is. I'm not naive. AI is a more pervasive technology than a spot welding robot or a shipping container. It touches cognitive work, creative work, professional work, domains that previous waves left largely untouched. The disruption will be real and it will reach further. But I've learned to distrust the word Armageddon when it is spoken by people who have never had to make a production schedule work on a Monday morning. So here's what I know from the floor, from the office, from the boardroom, from the 3 decades of watching predictions crash against reality. The human capacity to adapt is not a bug in the system. That human capacity is the system. Every technology that was supposed to eliminate human judgment has ended up creating new demands for human judgment. Every tool that was supposed to make expertise irrelevant has revealed new dimensions of expertise we didn't know we needed. The pattern is so consistent, it should be a law of nature. Humanity doesn't progress in clean lines. We lurch. We overcorrect. We panic. We overinvest. We underprepare. And then, with a stubbornness that would embarrass any rational model, we figure it out. The Indian philosophical tradition I grew up in has a word for this: Leela, the divine play, the cosmic improvisation. The universe is not a machine executing a predetermined program. It's a living performance, full of surprises, setbacks, and improbable recoveries. The Bhagavad Gita does not promise Arjuna that the battle will be easy. It promises that the battle is worth fighting and that he is equipped for it in ways he cannot yet see. I think about this when I watch the news, and I recommend you do too. The pundits see the arrow of disruption and extrapolate it to infinity. But arrows don't travel to infinity. They arc and they land, and then someone picks them up and builds something new. So, if you're reading the headlines and feeling the dread, let me offer you what I've learned, not from theory, but from standing next to people whose jobs were supposed to disappear 3 times over. And here's the 4 lessons. 1, be patient with the lurch. Transitions are ugly, they're supposed to be. The ugliness is not evidence that the system's breaking, it is evidence that the system is reorganizing. And that's not the same thing. Second, distrust total narratives. Anyone who tells you they know exactly how AI will reshape the economy in 10 years, get this. He is selling you something. The honest answer, the only honest answer is, it depends on what we choose to do with it, and we includes you. Third, invest in what machines cannot replicate. Not information. Machines have that. Not speed. What's the word? Exaflops. Machines have that too. Invest in judgment, in context, in the ability to read a room or a situation or a human face and know what the data doesn't say. Invest in the 1,000 small acts of sense making that hold every organization together and that no one has yet figured out how to automate. And then the fourth one is that, remember, you've survived before. Not you personally, perhaps, but the human project. We survived the loom. We survived the assembly line. We survived the mainframe, the internet, the smartphone. Each time we were told we would. Each time we lurched. Each time we recovered. Changed, sometimes bruised, but intact, and in many ways enlarged. So I named this publication The Long Game because I believe that the most important truths about work, about capability, about human dignity in the industrial age only reveal themselves over time. The hot take misses them. The quarterly earnings call misses them. The breathless headline certainly misses them. What the long game teaches is this: technology changes fast, but people change slow. And that slowness is not a weakness, it is a kind of wisdom. It is the pace at which trust is built, at which skill becomes craft, at which a team becomes something more than the sum of its headcount. So the sky has fallen before, it will fall again. And every time someone on a factory floor, in a hospital ward, in a classroom, in an office that smells like burnt coffee, and Monday morning, someone will look up, assess the damage, and get back to work. So this is not a failure of imagination. That is the deepest form of courage I know. Get back to work. Thank you.